what I got. So,
James, so
do
you
you have any
could use
questions?
this with your existing software, like, for instance, we both have a barber, and so they had a way of going, using their software and things like that. So
Yeah, we use it outside. And then
Outside.
Barbaran, you may still be using, what's this? The color rip from Spain.
Yeah,
We use GMG.
GMG.
So we actually try and do everything we do, color outputs under GMG. We found the color management to be the best there.
And then you partnered with Significant.
Yeah, and really to track the values, those values go into GMG. GMG is what deals with the curves, where you profile the machines to really get the color to the right aspect for that machine. So you're dealing with one lab color. This is the color I want to hit. You know it's these lab values. When it goes to the rips, well, for us it's
Yeah.
one rip, GMG. If GMG goes to the Barbaran, it's using a profile to the Barbaran. If it goes to the C500, it uses one to the C500. So same lab values, but it curves it differently to the way the machine outputs
Okay.
and how you profile that
Thank you.
machine.
Okay.
And I think what you're saying is this just tracks that data virtually so that did the RIPs pull the information from this at all, or is this just?
Yeah, in our workflows, it'll verify. If I have a name that matches that a designer used, and it matches that item in InkBooks, it'll replace those lab values. So you try and get rid of that human error.
Chuck, you have a question for?
Yeah, can you just take us through an example, like the customer said, here, I want you to match this. Yeah, blue, that's blue or black, but blue. How is it, can you just walk us through the?
Well, the system won't color match it. What'll happen is you still have the graphic artist.
Right.
So they're gonna create whatever that blue is, call it that blue. So I'll call it Chuck Blue, okay? So Chuck Blue, he wants this blue. They'll create it, they'll go through proofing it on the press. So they'll make sure that they're within the E delta that we want, right?
Okay.
The delta E for that color. Once that color is done and we know that's how it's printing on the press, those are the lab values that would then get created in here under Chuck Blue.
So it's just a drawdown, you're saying on the press, if I don't actually run it on the press,
We're just creating the color swatches,
Okay,
yeah.
good. All
So it's the color swatches on the press. So you want to do it ahead of time, so you're not doing it at the press when we're running Chuck Blue's job, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting the approval for the swatch, you now know it's good, it's on the material you need it for. Those lab values get saved because we know that's the lab value we want. We hit Chuck Blue, that's in here, no matter who designs that box for you now, right? Chuck Blue, you're gonna get the right color off that machine.
So the data gets pulled from, it's all.
The data will get
it's all
pulled if
the-
Chuck Blue matches Chuck Blue in that Illustrator file, so we have the names, right? You're calling it a custom name.
Right.
When it goes through our workflow processes, it does a check of that, pulls in those lab values, and then it goes out with the correct.
So I'm assuming the software works with HP, with Barbara, whoever. like,
Yeah,
it
because
doesn't
you're dealing
matter.
with the PDF values.
Right.
So it's the
So
PDF
it's just
files that are
PDF.
tracked, yeah.
I'm not that technical. so
No,
sorry,
it's
I don't know.
One of the interesting things, the Illustrator interface is part of this.
Okay,
So the cloud,
Yeah.
you take the ink book, you create your ink book.
yeah,
Let's say we're gonna do Chuck Blue with the gold or something, right?
right,
And if 3 or 4 designers are working for 3 or 4 products,
Right.
we publish the ink book, they open it in Illustrator, copy those swatches into their swatch library. Now, everyone is working from the same
that's the
colors
value, yeah.
that James knows he can hit because he's got it under his GMG rip.
And I assume it's organized by customer or by product.
You
or how do
can, you can allocate to whoever
It's
wants
like
to
whatever
see
folder.
whatever and publish it to whoever needs to see it.
And is it like Google Docs where you share or it's shareable, like depending on your designers, or do they have to, like how do you, like if you have designers in 3 different
They have the
locations?
interface
You have the interface.
in Illustrator.
Okay.
And then you assign them. So if Chuck was doing the project and Michelle wasn't, I wouldn't
I like that.
publish it to him.
Yeah.
It would, yeah,
Okay.
very much like that. So
Okay.
and then you get the folder, you can open it up, drag the
Okay.
colors into your library. Now you do your job with the same palette that everybody else is using.
So if a commercial printer is gonna use it for a product, a PMS or Chuck Blue in their
Yeah.
brochure or the website or who's ever designing. what,
You're already
they
setting
have
the
the
correct
same-
values.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the explanation.
So this is, then Bay Cities is very much the incubus behind developing this product, because they brought this challenge to us.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
We, for those of you who are technical, we're calling, in Bay Cities, we're calling on the Color Pilot module within the ESCO library, which apparently needs a rocket scientist to open up and understand and program. So this started off as an interface that would allow a normal human being to do this, okay? Because the problem with a lot of the software is if it's that complicated, then people don't use the tool. So how do we make it so it's not a burden, right? You know, it's like me and my electronics have to bring the damn book out every time to read it before I turn it on, right? And figure out how to use it. 13-year-old just picks it up and uses it, right? Yeah. So that's in Color Pilot, and then the agnostic version that runs on its own, which is also a cloud-based operation. It has its own storage facility in it, and you can export the color values. So if you had a library of colors in your RIP, or from your ink manufacturer's special mixes, you can bring those files, those color files, in to your library and then assign them to the projects that you need to.
So if Chuck Blue gets updated at some point, will the graphic designers need to resync their palettes? Okay, so we'll have to.
You publish it. It's published. It's live.
Okay, so they're using your web data or web connected
And
Illustrator.
if it's Chuck Blue, it doesn't matter. As it said, with Chuck Blue to the RIP, it'll do the updated.
So it'll pull them,
Yeah.
regardless of what's in the PDF. It'll get the most updated version.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the information doesn't live native to the PDF, it lives native to the cloud.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
So if the PDF changes by human error, like
Right.
we go from
As long as the name is
Chuck
right.
Blue to Charles Blue, yeah.
Well, if it's then you're screwed.
Then you're screwed.
The other interesting problem is, how do we create boundaries for designers where they stay within the gamut of the process, right? And, when I show this to color people, they go, oh, you're putting up fences so those lunatics can't run into the field? Yes. Oh, I like that, right? And, the other thing is, how many different, and this is something Jim told me, he said, how many different Pantone books have you seen, and have you ever seen two the same? How old are they? Are the current edition,
GCMI
is
is
it
even
yellow,
better.
right? And that. And then, how many designers have color calibrated monitors sitting in a neutral
Yeah.
grading
Yeah.
environment? Right? So they look at Chuck Blue and they say, oh, that doesn't look right, and they start making changes to it, right? They can change all they want, as long as it's called Chuck Blue, it's going to be the blue he wants.
So can you do this for Flexo?
Do it for anything.
Anything. I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
That's what
Depending on the weather, yeah,
We
you know
have
what I
the
mean?
ink kitchen, right? So the ink kitchen rolling all their patterns
Yeah.
in here, even though they're using it already in their stations, could be another place where now you're seeing it in
when
color.
it depends on the
versus-
antelope throws, the weather bad, you know what I mean?
Sure,
Like
it could be
all,
expanded.
yeah, like in LA, it's.
Jim, how many print processors are you currently using?
Print process.
Print processor, yeah.
For.
In your environment, you're using Flexo?
We do Flexo, we do actual inkjet
Inkjet.
printers on some of the equipment over there. We have the digital, we do litho, we do stuff on plastics.
Just do
So
everything.
that's one of the challenges.
What'd you say?
You do everything.
Yeah, well, almost. It's
If
one
I
of the
can't do it, I go,
challenges.
you should call Big Cities. I make brown boxes. Some digital.
What Bay Cities does is the packaging and then the display and the this and that, and it goes to different print processes. And the brand owners kind of want this stuff to match.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of.
No matter what the medium is.
Well, they don't care if he doesn't build them, but so that was part of the problem for controlling color was how did you get all these different processes
Yeah.
in line and in gamut and consistent? So,
Solve one problem at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a tip there too, something we learned over time, and maybe some of you know it doing a lot of digital, right? But if you have digital and you have more of the analog services, so you are printing a lot in Flexo, that type of stuff. If you got a color match, do your digital first. Get your color match in digital. You do your color match from the Flexo side, because those ink kitchens can nail a color much better than you can on digital.
So you're saying start with digital and then
Always
match?
start with digital color, and that's what you're matching.
That's good advice, yeah.
Absolutely. That's your biggest flexibility.
Yeah,
Because Flexo print, think about it, all your pigments, everything you have, you can hit anything. That's where all the colors have come from.
You have larger gamut.
Yeah, much larger.
Use orange first.
I really like yellows too. Those are my favorite.
Anyways, you saw
I
it,
think
you saw it put up there, our Pantone book. So
Yeah, that's
I
right.
want you to see,
It's
not
like the
smoke and
worst
mirrors, right?
colors,
There's
right.
Pantone, and we had our other colors, so you probably saw like a Google Blue, different people we worked with. So, we're definitely using it, and it's helped save so much time. It was one of the challenges I saw just from visiting other facilities at the beginning, is how do you know what you did last time? And they would try and track stuff and put them into shelves.
Well,
and-
especially with labor, the way it is, there's very little reliability with labor, at least where I'm at, so I'm assuming it's everywhere. So this helps.
It's
Okay.
interesting to have it when you have multiple pieces of equipment that are potentially running multiple rips. I mean, each rip has that kind of capability. I can set up a quick set for a certain Pantone, whatever, 285, that it adjusts plus or minus, magenta or yellow or whatever, and it stores that. But to have that across, it's still going to be different if I run it on my DERS versus my Ag.
Yeah, and it's twofold too, because it doesn't give that feedback back to the person who needs it at the very beginning. Because that's where it starts. It starts with the graphic artist, right? But if it's sitting on the rip, they don't create anything for you to really get to that easy. It's the rip operator that can
Yeah.
tell you if you go ask them. This way, you're putting it back in the hands of where it needs to be.
Especially with digital, because, back in the days of Vanilla presses, when we're sitting on a Heidelberg or something like that, you give them a sample and they spend 15 minutes or however long it takes tuning the color and doing all this. We don't have time. When I talked to you about this initially, we were doing the case study, right? You told me, we don't have time for that anymore. And which two of those geniuses will do it the same? And will they do it the same twice? Right? So that kind of interpretation is too costly now, a luxury in today's market. And I think that's something Jim taught me when I was talking to him about why did you do this, right? Well, and it makes sense. We have the ability now to do the quality control up front and repeat it. We don't need to be fixing it, right? And
As we all know, those presses aren't cheap, right? So that's where you want it. You want it up front. You want it
Yeah.
delivering the end result.
Yeah, one-way boxes are much better than two-way boxes.
Well,
Rerunning it.
we're setting presses up to run for 3 days.
Yeah.
An hour of make ready wasn't obscene, right? But now that we're running, it's like, now that, no, you're not. Sorry. But now that we're running, now that we have shorter runs, right, and less control. I mean, you can't tweak it's hard to tweak these digital presses, right? You got to get it right up front, and we can't afford to be messing about. Like I remember when back in the early days, I sold Zyklon for a while, and stuff, and people were amazed that we would have to go how many feet before the thing came up to temperature and stuff. Oh, we can't afford that, And those are the problems of the early days, and with short runs, it changed the cost structure exponentially compared to what we would do on an offset press or a flexo press, right? Where we were going to run for a day or two, So
Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
anybody else have questions, or are we all experts now?